Folks, Dan Campbell's not leaving after the season. Ben Johnson, that's a different story.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Matt Dery with you. It is the Locked On Lions on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day on a Wednesday, November 15th into Thursday, November 16th. Thank you for making us your first listen. Checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. That includes on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Please subscribe and watch us for free on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Dery Speaks, at Locked On Lions, Matt Dery Facebook fan page. Shout out to our everydayers that are out there. We appreciate you. If you missed yesterday's show, Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus was awesome. Tomorrow, the great Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears. Touchdown Bears. Lauren Cox will join us tomorrow. Talk a little Lions and Bears for our Thursday crossover. Today's show brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. They help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Lions get ready for the Bears on Sunday. Detroit 7-2. Bears coming in at 3-7. A lot to discuss on the show today. Yes, there are reports out there that because Jimbo Fisher is fired and gone from Texas A&M, that a famous Texas A&M Aggie alum, Dan Campbell, is on lists of head coaching candidates for his alma mater. Shout out to my buddy JW Scoops. He knows who he is. He hit me on this one like a month ago. We'll get into that. I don't see a lot of juice there. Ben Johnson, though, that's a different story. We'll talk about that. Tom Pelissero had a report on NFL Network today about Ben Johnson. Also today, Hal Vaitai's season is done. His career could be done, but there's an angle here that Dan Campbell mentioned today that I thought was really, really interesting. We will touch on that coming up on the show. The Lions have a new edge rusher. He's not new. He's 36, Bruce Irvin. And yes, Hall of Fields is back. That's right. The starting quarterback down there at Hallis Hall in Chicago is back and is going to play Sunday against the Lions. Lot of sidebars going into this game we'll get into today right here on Locked On Lions. But again, let's start with this. All right. Dan Campbell, the minute something like this happens, right, and you got coaching vacancies, whether it's NFL, college, whatever, the Bruce Feldmans of the world and this person and that person and Pete Thamel, all of these college football writers. I know I'm probably not allowed to say Pete Thamel's name here in the state of Michigan. Ooh, Pete's a bad guy. He's after Harbaugh. He's after Michigan. Okay, pump the brakes. Just using it as an example. Dan Wetzel, Pat Forty, who else? I don't know. They're all going to write candidate names for Texas A&M. Mike Elko, the Duke coach who has been an assistant there, and this name and that name, and Lane Kiffin. And then the name came up, Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, of course, played his college ball at Texas A&M. He's a Texas guy. He loves his Aggies. Why wouldn't Texas A&M pick up the phone, call Campbell's agent and said, do you think there's any way if we made him one of the highest paid coaches in college football, he would come home? First of all, the answer is no. Okay. But Dan Campbell, in his third season now as Lions coach, is probably due for a big raise. All right. Even though he's got 3 more years after this left on his 6-year contract, there's a chance, especially if the Lions win the division, win a playoff game, do all these things that we think they're going to do, that Dan Campbell and his agent play a little game with the Ford family and with everybody else and say, look, time to pay up. We got alma mater down here and, it's bigger in Texas, right? All my exes live in Texas. Trying to think of any other songs. If you're going to play in Texas, you better have a fiddle in the band. What a great song that is. Anyway, you get my point. All right. I don't think somebody's going to leave this type of situation like the NFL, like what Dan Campbell has in Detroit. He's a god here, to go and be a college coach and have to recruit and NIL and boosters and all that BS. I don't see it. But what I do see is a leverage move and utilizing this to the best of his abilities to get a raise. Why not? Now, as far as Ben Johnson goes, so I think Dan Campbell's not going anywhere. All right. So I know you'll see these reports and everybody go, oh, no, just pump the brakes on it. But as far as Ben Johnson goes, the Lions offensive coordinator, Tom Pelissero had an interesting report today on the NFL.com, the NFL Network. He said, Johnson, quote, Johnson coached quarterbacks, receivers, and tight ends before becoming Detroit's offensive coordinator in 2022, giving him a good feel for the whole picture. And he should be even more prepared to run his own show after another year as OC. Many league sources considered Johnson the most coveted candidate in this hiring circle. Pelissero went on to say about how he was the front runner for the Panthers job, didn't take it, which was smart. But think about this. We all saw this Monday night. The Buffalo Bills are in trouble. They've just fired Ken Dorsey. Sean McDermott's team is going backwards. All right. They've regressed over the last few years. They're now 5-5. You don't think Ben Johnson wouldn't be a great fit in Buffalo with Josh Allen, right? His name is going to come up in Chicago with the Chargers and Justin Herbert. Ben Johnson's not going to go somewhere where they don't have a quarterback situation. If he goes to the Bears, he could have his pick at whatever college quarterback he wants, especially if Chicago ends up with the number 1 pick, number 2 pick. There's tons of quarterbacks coming out in this draft. Zillions here. Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy and Drake May and Penix, all these people. All right. So there's a ton of college quarterbacks, and I'm probably not naming some of the others. But just keep an eye on that. Ben Johnson has done such a good job. All right. And he was showcased this past Sunday. Chargers, people unhappy with Brandon Staley. Yeah, Kellen Moore is there, and Kellen Moore and Ben Johnson kind of went toe-to-toe here as those two offenses put up, nearly 80 points combined. Was it 79? So Ben Johnson, that was a showcase, national game, CBS, Nance, Romo, and you just saw the creativity that is here. He has such a great rapport with Jared Goff, the offensive line, the weapons, everything that Ben Johnson's doing. He's not, my guess is he's gone after this year. Now, why am I bringing this up today? Because it's all over NFL circles about certain coaches on the hot seat. Who are the up and comers? And everybody agrees. The Lions have, and this is remarkable because we're talking about the Lions here. The Lions have the best offensive coordinator in the game. They've got a guy that was a finalist for jobs last year and decided to come back. All right. A lot is left in this season. The Lions have 8 more games, hopefully 9 and 10 and 11, and they're playing into January, into late January. But every opening that comes up, every rumor that's out there, if the Lions embarrass the Bears and Matt Eberflus this weekend, and people say, what are the Bears doing? They need to fire Matt Eberflus. They're going to look across the other sideline at Ben Johnson. Brandon Staley with the Chargers, same thing. Monday night with McDermott, same thing. Jets and New York media, Jets fans, New York media, they think Salah's a chump. There's no emotion. He doesn't say, he doesn't do this, doesn't do that. People are talking. Frank Reich, he might not last. He might just be 1 year and out as coach in Carolina. So a lot of talk about coaches for sure. What about if Belichick moves on from the Patriots and Ron Rivera in Washington? There's tons of possibilities here, just off the top of my head here. But very interesting. Tom Pelissero is a very connected NFL reporter with both the network and with NFL.com, is saying Ben Johnson is at the top of the list. Should not be a surprise. He's done a fantastic job with this Lions offense. All right. Deep breath. Coming up next, I want to talk about Bruce Irvin, Halapoulivaati Vaitai, Hall of Fields is back. We will do all of that coming up next. But first, LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you got to post your position on LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Look me up on LinkedIn, Matt Dery, Dery. I got the purple hiring frame for my day job at Financial Architects. We're looking for financial advisors. Posted the job on LinkedIn Jobs. It's awesome. Put that hashtag hiring frame up. Simple tools like screening questions help out, make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience that you are looking for. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. And hey, what about FanDuel? Oh yeah, we got Thursday night football. We got college basketball, Maui Invitational next week. Full slate of NFL and college football this weekend. Will Michigan blow out Maryland on the road? MSU and Indiana should be a barn burner in Bloomington. Want to bet on all these games? Do so at FanDuel. All right, America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, no better time than to get in on the action. They got everything: spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season, NBA, NHL. There's everything right now. FanDuel, official partner of the Locked On Podcast Network and the NFL. All right. What did I want to do next? Lions have signed Bruce Irvin to the practice squad. This happened, of course, just as I was hitting end recording on the podcast yesterday here on my beautiful StreamYard app. Bruce Irvin is 36 years old. All right. He's played 11 seasons in the NFL, and he was out of football the first 2 months of the season. Last year with the Seahawks, 11 games, 3.5 sacks. It was his second tour of duty with Seattle. He's been around a long time, and we've talked about this ad nauseum on this show. Outside of Aiden Hutchinson, what edge rusher on this roster is getting to the quarterback? At the start of the year, I'm like, oh my God, Lions have all these edge rushers. Romeo Carr's making all this money. Charles Harris making all this money. How are they going to have time for Josh Paschal, Julian Okwara, John Kaminsky, the commish? Yet all of these guys I've named, not named Aiden Hutchinson, have combined, the edge rushers, for just 4.5 sacks. That's it. All right. Bruce Irvin is a guy that is, he's 55 career sacks. Like I said, 3.5 last year. Right now, he's been signed to the practice squad. They're going to get him in shape. Dan Campbell said today he's superhuman. He's in great shape at 36. They worked him out the other day. I think it was on Monday. And to quote the great Stu Feiner, ready to roll. They are ready to roll with Bruce Irvin. Now, probably won't play this week, I wouldn't think. There's a chance. Maybe they elevate him from the practice squad. But the Lions need help getting to the quarterback. Campbell said today they think their pass rush is fine. But let's be honest. When they played good teams like the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Chargers, Seattle, they've not gotten to the quarterback. All right. According to Pro Football Reference, the Lions have produced 91 pressures on the year, so that's 12th in the NFL. But right now, they're 21st in the league in sacks. Now, again, some of you can say, oh, it's not just all about sacks. I get it. You want to get pressures on. Anzalone didn't get a sack this past Sunday, but he forced the pressure on Herbert, which caused the interception in the play made by Kirby Joseph. I have no issue with Bruce Irvin. All right, he's 36. It's a one-year flyer. It's 8 games. See what he can do. He's in good shape. He's been around the league. He's old. I don't know how many snaps he can play. They need to get James Houston back, but I have no problem with Bruce Irvin. The only problem I have is that Brad Holmes didn't address this a couple of weeks ago at the trade deadline. We're going to watch this Sunday Montez Sweat for the Bears, who got a long-term deal. I get it. A lot of money, more money than I would have paid him. But he was available. All right. I know the Bears gave up a lot. They gave up a second-round pick for him. But if Montez Sweat comes into Ford Field and starts running around the Lions tackles and getting to Jared Goff, we're all going to go, a bad Bears team got him. How come we didn't get him? All right. Last week, it didn't cost them the game because they won, but the Lions didn't sniff Justin Herbert. And as Campbell has said, those other guys have got to start winning the one-on-one battles. But to bring in a Bruce Irvin, a guy that still has some juice, I have no problem with it. Give it a try. You have nothing to lose. Is that my first choice? Would I rather a Danielle Hunter? Yeah. Or Brian Burns? Sure, of course. 36-year-old Bruce Irvin, still some tread on the tires. We'll see how that goes, and we'll see if he even plays this week. They elevated Jake McQuaid, the long snapper, to the from the practice squad to the regular 53-man roster, and now we see if Bruce Irvin even plays this week. But he'll go through practice all week, and we'll see what happens. He could be elevated Sunday and play. The Lions have had disappointments across a defensive line. Edge rushers, Buggs a healthy scratch. Onwuzurike a healthy scratch. There have been other guys that have not played. Romeo Okwara was a scratch earlier in the year. Somebody has got to step up because you cannot give these other teams' quarterbacks, and I don't care if it's Justin Fields, Justin Herbert, or Justin Bieber. I don't care who's back there. You've got to pressure the quarterback. And the Lions have not done it consistently this season. One thing that is consistent about this team that I absolutely love is the locker room and the culture. Halapoulivaati Vaitai's back injury has flared up again, and he's been placed on injured reserve. And Dan Campbell said today it's likely that Big V is done for the season, and it could be career-ending for him. Reportedly, he even considered retiring after last season, but wanted to come back, wanted to play next to Penei Sewell, and be a part of this team. Here's what's very interesting about this situation. Graham Glasgow has stepped in and done well. Vaitai's family, they're all down in Texas. And he's going to stay up here and help out. All right. If this is a guy contemplating retirement, he could easily go rehab down in Texas or go rest or get away or whatever. He's going to stay up here and be a part of this team and is going to be in that locker room and is going to help coach up some of the younger offensive linemen and be a presence with the squad. That's exactly what kind of like Michael Brockers did last year. But Dan Campbell made it a point of saying today that he was proud of Vaitai and that this is a team player and everything else. And I think that's awesome. What does that say about the culture here? What does that say about the organization when you have players that, go on injured reserve, are done, especially veterans? You got, guys like Aaron Rodgers. Oh, I'll just rehab out in LA or wherever he is, and then I'll show up for games and get my photo ops. But instead, Dan Campbell talked about it today. Big V wants to remain around and wants to be a part of what's going on here. And that is all about what this culture shift has gone through, where you have veteran players that want to stay, even guys that are injured want to be here, even guys that were scratches last year, like Brockers, never complained. That's how you win. That's how you build a winner. You have to have talent, and the Lions have it. And they've gotten there with talent, and they probably could use some more talent, especially on defense. But when everybody's together, you have a team like this. I joke about Harbaugh and Michigan and all this, but that's a team. If you watch those kids play, they are together. And so are the Lions. So for Big V to Halapoulivaati Vaitai to stick around despite being injured, I think that's awesome. I think it's very, very cool. So shout out to him and shout out to the Lions for making that happen so that he's here and comfortable and doing his thing. All right. Hall of Fields is back. Yes, Justin Fields is going to face the Lions this week. What does that mean for Sunday? We will do that coming up next. What's the easiest, most exciting way to make some money and play daily fantasy sports? That's simple. It's PrizePicks. Instead of battling thousands of other players, it's just, including the pros and the sharks, it's just you against the player stat projections. You pick more or less than on 2 to 6 players and their projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. It's fun. You went up to 25 times your money. Basketball season here, you can do that as well. It's easy. It's fun. Want to bet on Christian McCaffrey More than or less than 75 rushing yards. What about Joe Burrow this week for the Bengals against the Ravens? More than 2 passing touchdowns. You can do all of that. You can do all Lions if you want. You can do Bears this week at PrizePicks. It is awesome. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. It is simple. Do this. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNFL, code LOCKEDON NFL. First deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Shout out to my guy Chauncey Williamson, big Lions fan. That's my boy. He loves the red Solo cup. But I'm not bringing good cups and stuff down here and glassware down to the pod cave. Although I do have this glass here. I got to take this up to the kitchen after I'm done. All right, here we go. After nearly a month away due to injury, Justin Fields is back. The Lions will face the Bears starting quarterback this Sunday when Chicago invades the corner of Brush and Adams. What does this mean? Well, number one, remember what took place a few weeks ago. Fields got hurt. Tyson Bagent came in. D2 kid, I'm going to say it, great white hope. All right. And the city of Chicago fell in love with this guy because in his first start, he won. They beat the Raiders and everyone's like, woo, Bagent, teabag, wee. Then reality set in. Guy threw like 4 interceptions and fumbled the ball a zillion times against the Saints. He was pathetic last week against Carolina, even though they won 16-13. But I honestly think that, I think that Southfield High School, Southfield Lathrop, Brother Rice, and they were like 1-9. I think they could beat the Carolina Panthers. My Cubs, the UAD Jesuit, whatever. You know what I'm saying. Harper Woods, shout out to Coach Rado and good luck this week. Could beat Carolina. But yet the Bears, who were very quiet about Justin Fields' status, easing him back in, wanted to see more of Bagent. Now that dual threat, the alleged future in Chicago in year 3, Justin Fields is back and will start this Sunday against the Lions. Now, remember last year, Lions swept the Bears, beat them up at Ford Field after the earlier meeting at Soldier Field where Fields went off in the first half. He had that long rushing touchdown, played great. And then in the end, Okudah with the pick 6, Fields got the ball back, was sacked a couple of times. I think Julian Okwara got him to end the game, whatever it was, and he just couldn't deliver. And then Justin Fields, if you look at his record, it's way below 500. He doesn't win. But there's always that threat that if the Bears and their offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, do it right and call running plays for him out of the backfield, shotgun stuff, almost like backyard football, that he can perform. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend and how creative their offense is. He and DJ Moore have good chemistry. Bagent and Moore did not. Bagent had great chemistry with Kmet, but not necessarily with DJ Moore. But this is something to watch for this week. I wonder if Lion fans are happy Fields is back or if they're a little nervous because the guy is an athlete and man, he does make some plays with his legs. But I've called him Hall of Fields because I just thought he was overrated. I couldn't believe the offseason where Dan Orlovsky and others were saying he'd be in the MVP discussion. He just holds the ball too long, doesn't go through his progressions great. Remember last year the Lions backed off everybody from the offensive line and put 11 men in coverage and Fields threw an interception to Aiden Hutchinson. It was embarrassing. He's not a very good passer. But yes, he's an athlete. He can make plays. And we'll see kind of where this thing goes Sunday. I prefer that he plays because I want the Lions to beat the best version of the Bears that there is. Bagent was cute for a little while, but that's not reality. I think the next season, the Bears quarterback in 2024, I think is going to be their first draft pick. All right, tomorrow, Lauren Cox, host of Locked On Bears, will join us for the Thursday crossover. Everybody have a safe and healthy Wednesday into Thursday. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.